maybe group a little bit together so that I can take a picture?
Sure.
Yeah, maybe group together where you would like to have. Here?
Yeah. Tell us.
It's video right here.
I think everybody has lipstick frozen.
Okay,
I
closer,
don't
guys.
have that one.
So they said that they can only accommodate. The reason we're here is obviously because climate change is a really huge, important issue. I know all of you are very passionate about it. And what we are trying to do is that we are trying to actually raise much more awareness with the public about climate change, why it's so important, why it's such a crucial issue. And the idea is that to have events like this, events where we generate press, get the press to come out, have constant stories, that are happening like on a weekly, basis, so that climate change becomes much more of a focus within the media and in the mind of the public than as previously has happened, and to really, help, fight, the message of the climate deniers, and also to talk to our representatives, to thank people like Judy Chu for the support that she's done, because when they take some courageous stance, even standing up to fight climate change, they need to know that we have their back. They need to know that we have their support. And because if we don't do it, they only hear, and the more that we do it, the more that's going to encourage them to take more courageous stances. So there are actions going on all throughout the country right now for this day of action on climate change, focusing on those who are also denying climate change in Republicans or red districts. But we're also asking, so what we're asking for Judy Chu is to thank her for the work that she's done, and also because of the position that she's in, she has an ability to really reach out to the public and to have things like town halls, press events that can generate more awareness. So that is basically what our role is here for. Now, because one of the things that we want to do is show how climate change is affecting us locally. People need to be aware how climate change is affecting them locally. So right now we have the beautiful Angeles Forest that is in part of Judy Chu's district. This area has been dramatically affected by the increases in wildfires that are due to climate change. And so we're going to have a brief talk about how climate change has affected the increase of wildfires. But first what I wanted to do is I wanted to have just kind of like a personal story about how climate change has affected someone that was close to them. So if Gabriela, would you be able to?
Sure. Thank you for coming. I'm Gabriela. Soy Gabriela. Gracias por venir. I'm originally from Panama. I grew up there. I've been in California both for my higher education, and I've lived here for 15 years. And I want to share a story about what's going on in Panama, the tropics. There's a drought in Panama. There's a drought in California, but there's a drought in the tropics. That is scary. It is so bad that there are brownouts and blackouts because most of our power comes from hydroelectric. So they have to save the water in order for the canal to function. So now the populace has no electricity. So imagine that here in California. I mean, how many of you have more seasonal allergies? That's because of a higher CO2 level. How many of you suddenly developed asthma? That's because of a higher CO2 level in the atmosphere.
Okay,
Just today, the Colorado River, they announced that it's half full, which means the water from the Colorado River that supplies also Southern California is responsible for 15% of food production. So everybody here, think about people you love. Wouldn't you protect them? Well, climate change is affecting their livelihood, their lives, our lives. So it's really a personal survival issue. Thank you.
The wildfire seasons in a situation where the CO2 concentration is rising are going to become longer and more devastating and catastrophic.
Right.
As we were talking about the 2009 station fire, it cost $95.5 million to fight that fire, and we lost 2 firefighters because of it. What happens is the intense rains grow the vegetation up, it dries out, and then becomes quite flammable for large catastrophic fires to form. So wildfires and climate change are closely linked together And in a situation of rising CO2 levels, wildfires will become much worse in the future. And this is what we're going to try to talk to our representatives about today. Thank you.
About Judy Chu's record right now on climate change. Right now we know that she has a very, very strong environmental record. She has a 100% rating with the illegal conservation voters. She is currently right now the chairperson of the House Sustainable and Energy Environmental Coalition. In terms of specifically about climate change, I don't know if she's advocated for any particular piece of legislation that specifically addresses that. So this is one of the reasons why we're actually meeting with Judy Chu to find out, what she's doing. I know that there is a general House caucus that is being formed to fight climate change. I think that's one of the things we're going to talk about, Judy Chu about. But maybe a California-specific one would also be, I think this is definitely a great idea, for sure.
Some Republicans that might want to be involved in that.
Exactly.
California.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point.
Thank you for your question about what the public can do to fight global warming. You can do actions with your everyday life. Number one, contact your power company. Tell them you want renewable sources of energy. I just did that on the DWP website, and now all my fuel sources are from renewables. I did it in one click. You can also contact your representatives like we're doing here with Judy Chu. Send an email. You don't even have to come here. Call. It takes 1 minute. So there are daily things you can do. You can plant a tree with Tree People or A Million Trees Los Angeles. You can start an organic garden. You can support CSAs. Eat less meat. Conserve water. The city will give you rebates to install water conservation equipment on your property. It's free. Do it. You'll save bills and you'll save energy.
Maybe believe in climate change but are afraid to speak out about it. I guess I'm curious to know what can be done to help inspire more bipartisan work on this.
One of the things that we're trying to do is that we are trying to create more of a political environment that is more conducive to Republicans being able to take these stances on climate change. So, for example, making sure that they're hearing from their constituents who really care about climate change. The more they hear about their constituents, the more and more they have the political ability to take stances on climate change. To know that if they actually do take stances on climate change, that there will be people out there to support them and actually what they're doing, so that they're not just hearing from those who deny climate change, but they're hearing from their supporters. To know that if they do it, it's going to actually increase their, it's going to help them in terms of there are people actually going to be voting for them based on the fact that they support climate change. That also means reaching out to constituents that often vote Republican, but are definitely favorable in fighting climate change. For example, the evangelical community is a really important point. And also, as right now it's opening with OFA, is that they're talking to the representatives right now in these congressional red districts also, and letting them know that yes, if they do take more of a courageous stance, that we are there to support them and to help them in any way that they can. So hopefully, does that help answer your? Great. Okay.